Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Komal Shah, and today we'll be discussing the concept of sample size. So there's a case where first-year resident wants to calculate the sample size for his thesis, where he wants to assess the utility of IV US-assisted PCI as compared to those undergoing without that imaging technology. Then how should we calculate the sample size for this kind of cases? So first of all, it is critical to understand the study design and methodology that we want to opt for addressing this research question. So the students is having this kind of study design, which is displayed over here for his particular study. So it is a randomized controlled parallel trial where two study groups will be included. First would be the intervention arm, where IUVS guided PCI technology will be used. And second one would be the control technology, where conventional angiography guided PCI will be used. Now we need to be really specific about the outcome that we want to assess for this particular research study. So over here, the student want to assess the outcome in terms of target vessel failure at 12 months. So this has been critically described further in three indicators where cardiac death, MI, or target vessel revascularization are considered. So with this basic information about the research design or a study design, we need to understand the concepts of sample size. So number of subjects or the participants that need to be included in the study, that is by and large known as sample size. It is one of the most critical concepts and aspects of the study design, especially if we are going ahead with an RCT, that is randomized controlled trial, which is needed for accurate inference of the findings that we are getting. If we are having incorrect sample size, it means that we might end up having misleading results. By and large, there is no magic formula. The sample size calculation varies from type of study and the study design that we are choosing. So it is not one size that can fit all the study designs. So for this particular study, we will be discussing what could be the minimum requirement that we need to have. So the sample size can be calculated by various methodology. Classically, there are equations available which can be used manually, and the data can be entered in those equations and you can get your sample size. Apart from that, nowadays, there are various software which are available, which are free also, and which are purchasable software also. Based on need of the individual and the study, we can purchase or use the free software. But before we go ahead with any of this tool, we need to understand that what would be the minimum information that is needed to calculate the sample size. So over here, I have tried to list down those information which are needed prior we go ahead with the sample size calculation. So first of all, we should be ready with the confidence interval. Confidence interval is generally considered or taken up at 95%, but you may vary it based on your study design. So for this particular study, 95% of the confidence interval was taken up by the student. Then power of the study. How much confidence or power I want to impart to my study. That should be a minimum limit for this kind of study. Then ratio of cases to control or exposed to unexposed. So how many individuals I'm planning to take up or enrolled in my intervention arm, as well as how many I want to enroll in my control or unexposed arm. That particular ratio should be very clear in my mind. Then something which will be needed before I go ahead with the sample size calculation. Now there will be a question in your mind, then how do we obtain this information? The 4 or 5 factors that I mentioned in the previous slide. So for that, there are various ways. The first and very popular way, you go through the prior published literature and identify what is the odds, how the controlled people were enrolled, how the cases were enrolled, what were their criteria, and what were their findings. So the most common and very popular way is to rely on the prior published literature. The second one, if nothing is published in that area, you should go ahead with the expert opinion. People who are already working in that area, you can ask them about the expected outcome. What could be the outcome of interest when you are taking care of this kind of study? Then if that is also not available, you need to go ahead with the primary study. You yourself need to run a pilot study to understand and measure your outcome of interest, and then you can design one large study. So we have the citation as well as the study details over here, which I have referred for the sample size calculation. Yeah. So this is about the type of information that I have extracted from that particular study. I was interested in the total number of participants in each group. So the study that I have retrieved from the literature, it has taken up 724 individuals in both the arm, in my intervention as well as my control arm. Now, the next question or the next information that I require is my outcome of interest. What was the impact of PCI that was guided through IVUS as well as angiography on the outcome? So over here, my primary outcome was target vessel failure at 12 months, exactly the same that I'm planning to take up. So I was fortunate to get this article, and I need to dig out the result from this particular article, which I'll be using for my sample size calculation. So they found out that in 2.9% of the individuals in my intervention arm, these events occurred, in contrast to 5.4, which I'll be needing and using for my sample size calculation. Okay, so now moving ahead, what are we supposed to do with this information? So this is one very commonly used software, user-friendly and freely available software for sample size calculation that is known as OpenAppy, that I have used over here. As you can see, the circle which is marked over here, that area gives you information about sample size calculation. So moving further, when you click the sample size, you will be provided the option whether you want to go ahead with a proportion, unmatched case control, cohort or RCT, and mean difference. So over here, my study requires a sample size calculation for an RCT. So when I click that particular area, this kind of window will be opened. And as you can see, all the information that I have extracted from my previous article are mentioned over here. So that information I need to add in this software. The first section is about the confidence interval. We need to mention that which would be the minimum confidence interval that we'll be taking up in a two-sided manner. So over here, statistically, generally 95% of the confidence interval is the most effective and accepted threshold. Then what would be my power of study? So minimum power of the study for this kind of studies are selected as 80%. So this is what I'm selecting. Then ratio of unexposed to exposed in this sample. I want to run an RCT where both the arms will have similar number of patients or participants. So I'll be putting my ratio as 1. I can change it as per my need also, 1:2 or any other ratio. But for this study, I will be needing 1. Then percentage of unexposed with the outcome and percentage of exposed with the outcome, odds ratio, and rest of the other information. Now, this information I have collected from my previously published article. So when I add this information in this particular software, it will be looking like this. The window will be like this. So 5.4% was my incidence of that event in my control arm. So that is the information I need to add in the percentage of unexposed with the outcome. Whereas the contradictory information that is related to my intervention, that needs to be added in the percentage to information in the software. The software will be calculating the odds ratio, prevalence, and rest of the things by its own. So I don't need to add that particular thing. I just need to click the calculate button, and you can see at the right-hand side, the sample size is calculated. So this is the sample size that I will be needing for this particular study. And generally, it gives you through 2-3 techniques or 2-3 methods. So generally, we take up something which is coming as the highest one. So over here, I can go ahead with 2-1-2-2. Now, there are certain issues with this kind of sample size calculation whenever you are going ahead with even with software or manual calculation, because it heavily depends on the published literature that you are using and your study design. So at times, there are possibilities that over here, my primary outcome was only 1. But there are chances that for some kind of study, I might have more than 1 primary outcome. And there are cases that the primary outcome related information are quite contradictory in the published literature. So I might not have 2.9 and 5.6 as the only percentage which is available. So I might need to calculate the sample size for lot many other percentage or other outcome related findings also. So in that case, there is always a way out. You need to calculate the sample size for all of this outcome in all the situation. Even your primary outcome has got two indicators. You need to calculate the sample size for all of them and take up the sample size which is highest. So highest sample size when you are choosing, it gives you an assurance that all of your significant outcome will be covered with that sample size. So this is how you go ahead with that sample size calculation when you have multiple outcomes to consider. These are some of the resources that I've referred over here. I have given references for manual calculation of the sample size, as well as I've given you the links for size calculations. The softwares are also accompanied by the tutorials, which are very easy to understand. And this is my contact detail. In case of any query, you can refer and contact me to this detail. Thank you very much.